I don't know why it says that. All right, we're starting a movie here on this lumber gauge or log gauge or whatever. It's homemade. I'm going to show how to make it. I got numbers written on it. So down here, the width is approximately 9.5 inches wide. This from here to here is 3.5. I wrote that on there from the other side. I'm gonna give the camera to my lovely wife to see if we can get a little bit better measurements. Now coming up off the back, this is approximately 18-19 inches. If you measure it out here, it might be 20. That's, you can make it any height you want. The reason it's high is so when you have a big log on it, you're standing here, you can still read the numbers. Where if you zoom over here, dear, you can't read these numbers. You got to climb up and look over to see where your pointer is when you're using the pointer gauge. So that's what makes this wheel so nice. It's back far enough that if a big log gets on it, it shouldn't hit it. It'd be a little close here. The frick ones down here, when you have a knot on a log from time to time and you twirl the log, it breaks them off. They're quite frequently broken and been repaired. It sits back about the same distance as the set works. It's got a little spring here with an idler, which we'll go around the other side and show that. This is a 7/8 inch shaft. These are just cheap little bearings that I got from some kind of scrap thing that I bought, and they worked for that. This wheel here is about 15 inches in diameter. This is just a piece of tin that I put on with a big hose clamp. The hardest thing you're going to have to do is get these measurements, and to do that I set a ruler on the head block and came in every 5 inches and put a mark on there, a scribe mark. And then I pulled it in another 5 inches and put another scribe mark. And I did it for 25 inches. Then I measured each one of those scribe marks on my thing, and I added them all together and divided by 5, and I thought that would give me a real accurate distance. Then that number I divided by 25, and it told me where to put every one of my inch marks, and I used a little scratch thing. If you get in real close, you might be able to see the little marks. I don't know if they're going to come up on the camera or not, but there's little scratches on every one. Then this is just in a flare Sharpie that I write it, and my halves are a line and my quarters are a dot. You can do it any way you want. They fade out, I don't know, about every spring. I got to rewrite the numbers on there, but that isn't any big deal because I still have the scratches. The pointer's just made out of a piece of metal that I ground down and put a little line on, and if I want to get accurate, I put that little scratch mark in between there. Sometimes when the light's just right, you can see them real good if you get in close. And this is a little bit of adjustable this way here, so to compensate, and every now and then you bump it and you go, wait a second, this is a goofy log, and then you realize that you bumped your thing. Most of the time you're not going to use this anyway, because you're going to be setting to your pins over there on your thing. If you're cutting 1-inch boards, you're not going to be cutting off the wheel. You're going to be cutting off your pins. You're going to be pulling to a pin. All right, now we'll go around back. You want me to take it as you go around back? All right.
How are you going to hand it to me?
Well, I'll just throw it over, let you catch. Another thing that I do is I have these written, so if you pull twice to that pin, it should give me a 3-inch board. So I get more consistent fat boards. This one here, if I pull it 2 times, I should get a 4-inch board or something like that. I'm not quite sure how I got that set right now. I don't use it too often. Handing the camera over, coming around. Oh, I'll bring the tape. You come over to this side. Down here, this is a piece of 4-inch channel here. It's at about a 30-degree angle up. You can make it any way you want. I'd recommend, I cut 4-inch cardboard and made a template before I cut this out. This is a 3.5-inch by 5-inch angle iron here. Okay, the degree on this I think is about 30. I might have said that. This is just an idler that I found, and you can see if you it's kind of springy, so it keeps it pretty well in line most of the time. I guess every now and then it could get goofy, but they all can. You can drill a couple holes in here. I've drilled the holes and I never bolted it on. I might have to do that one of these days. On here, the teeth on here are let me pull this back. I think I counted them 16 tooth. Can you see that, dear? Over here. See the 16 tooth? Okay, and the big sprocket is about, I think that's about 60 tooth. I've counted it 2 or 3 times and I get a different number every time, 59 or 60. The sprocket, the idler sprocket really doesn't make any difference. The shaft on this one's 7/8. This is an old Meyer well pump wheel. That's what that came from. And they're pretty common in 1-inch diameter. Looks like I built some bushings in here, but they seem to be useless because there's 2 big bolts up here. Let me pull this back. There's 2 bolts that hold that in place. Don't touch that, you'll get greasy. There's 2, you can see the bolts, one right here, one right here, that hold that in place from going left or right. I'm guessing there's an Allen set in these bearings, but you can get the bearings to fit that, and that's just a shaft. This was left over from junk I had. This was left over from junk I had. That's the reason I made it. The idler was left over from something I had. Now this sprocket here, as I recall, I bought that from Surplus Center. The chain came from Surplus Center, and then I had to have somebody bore it out for me and then weld it onto a bigger piece, welded it on so it would, because it got pretty thin when I did it. You'll have to figure your own calculations out, so if this turns amount that this turns, which makes this turn, it gets about 3/4 of the wheel on there, which is actually not too bad. If you can figure out your ratios, whatever you want to get what you want. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on here that you need. Oh, here, let me see it a second. Maybe you can see those scribe marks now. Or the sun. I don't know what can. It's kind of hard to. Every now and then you can see the little scratches that a caliper will scratch on there. That's 16 tooth. That's 5 inches that way. This is 4-inch channel. It's about a 30-degree angle, I think. This is about 60 tooth. This is 16. I'm pretty close on that. This is about a 15-inch diameter wheel. This is just a piece of stainless steel I had from scrap somewhere. I think that about covers it. Here's the bolts that hold the wheel in place. Just a cheap old bearing. It's kind of self-aligning, so when you weld it up and you miss it by a little bit, I think I put a piece of big all thread through there and bolted it tight and tacked it and checked it for square and all that kind of stuff when I did it. And you can make it higher if you wanted to make it higher, but I'd keep it back far enough that you can get a pretty good sized log on there. So that's how to, not how to make it, it kind of shows you how I made it. Don't forget you gotta have some kind of spring. I don't know if that's catching the spring. I guess you can get kind of the spring, something to keep it so the chain is no slack in it. I guess that about does it for this video. If you have any questions, hook up with me or leave a comment, and I'll try my best to help you out in any way I can making one. Over and out. Thank you. Bye.